From paddocks wide to country towns, voices sharing ups and downs, yarns that paint the rural scene, life out here both tough and keen. Chewing the fat, where stories flow from every place that you might know. Pull up a seat, join in the chat. Across the bush we're chewing the fat. Chewing the fat, where stories flow from every place that you might know. Pull up a seat, join in the chat. Across the bush we're chewing the fat.
And I'm thrilled to be able to introduce someone who I didn't know a great deal about until about 2 weeks ago when I did some looking into some research for this program, would you believe, and stumbled over an organisation which we'll introduce in a moment. But let's kick off by introducing the person. His name is Kevin Butler. G'day, Kevin.
Neil, good morning.
How you going?
Very well. I've just been moving ewes and lambs this morning, young baby lambs, and just came in for having a cup of tea with Rhonda, and then I'll be going out again. So, yeah, no, all is well.
Excellent. Now, we should just clear up a few things. First of all, your surname is Butler, my surname is Butler, but we have no familial family relationship?
No, we don't, but probably several generations ago over in Tipperary, our forefathers and mothers might have been good friends.
Well, I believe I'm part of the Cornish Butlers, if truth be known, but who knows? We may well be, if you go back far enough.
It's a very common name.
I beg your pardon, popular. Popular, not common.
Yes.
We're not common. And the other thing I do need to ask you is, if you are going out after you've chatted to me to look after the sheep, are you indeed going to go bowling into the kitchen and say, help me, Rhonda, help me, Rhonda?
I do say that, but it doesn't work.
So, Kevin, you are a farmer, clearly, and we're going to talk about the organisation you're part of shortly. Whereabouts are you farming?
Well, yeah, I'm a fourth-generation farmer at Kilmore East, which is about 80 kilometres north of Melbourne. Very close to Melbourne, actually.
Yeah.
The city is encroaching in, but the farm is still the same as what it was when I was a child. I'm 71 years of age, and I farm the same property that my father and my grandfather did, and my great-great-granduncle did from the selection days. Yes,
wow.
It's lovely. Mm.
And so the farming techniques, I assume, have changed over the journey, but the produce that you're creating in the way of sheep and stuff, that's pretty much been what you've been doing all right through the generations?
Yeah, it's changed. You're quite right, Neil. Back even in my when I was a young person, it was very much a sort of subsistence type, if that's the word. We milked the cows to provide milk and butter and cream for the family, and provided all our own hay and that sort of thing, and chooks and pigs and so on. But nowadays, Rhonda and I are in prime lamb production. We were in merino wool production for many years, but most of us know that people don't wear wool these days, and it's a bit expensive, and cotton synthetics have taken over, and it's just the way of things. And there are a lot of people who love lamb chops.
Yeah.
So, that's why we produce lambs. Mm.
And I guess if we brought your granddad back and put him on the farm, the thing that he would notice most, apart from the techniques, obviously, is the fact that in the olden days he wouldn't have been able to see a house apart from the ones on the scattered around the farms. I guess there's a few housing estates getting close to Kilmore now, are there?
No, that's not correct, Neil.
Oh.
Fortuitously, our council has sort of created a bit of a green wedge.
Oh, okay, that's good of them.
Yeah, quarry sort of next door, and sort of it's called Rural A3 farming land, and it's really picturesque, and that's how I marvel. Our farm is about 7 kilometres long. There's peppercorn lease and freehold in there. And sometimes I go to the top of the hill. Well, I often go to the top of the hill just to muster sheep, and I look over and I say, my God, this is the same appearance, the land, apart from just a couple of houses, as what it was in my grandfather's day. Like, I remember in history is that 1912, just before the start of World War I, the artillery regiment fired shots from one hill to the other, about a kilometre away, and a lot of them landed on my hill. And there's these big holes in the ground from where the artillery exploded. And we can still see where the embankments the placements of the artillery guns were on One Tree Hill, which is a kilometre over where my grandfather originally had his property. It's just lovely to see something that's sort of being kept. But my farming techniques are way different to what his were.
Yeah.
It's the wind blows the same ways, and the air is still fresh and sweet, and it's beautiful, especially a day like today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because I haven't been up there for a while. My young fella used to play football against a school that I believe is part of your family history as well, Assumption College. And apart from remembering it was incredibly cold the morning we were up there, my recollection was that certainly Wallen, which is the next town down the road, was just going berserk in terms of housing. I just assumed that would be happening at Kilmore, but not so. That's good.
Well, you are right. Wallen is exploded in size. It's when Rhonda and I were first married in 1976, we used to go down to Preston to the shop down there. We thought that was good shopping, and now we say, well, we can just go 10 minutes to Wallen or right into Kilmore itself, and it's just like suburban Melbourne of the mid-1970s.
Yeah.
So where our farm is about 3 kilometres east of the metropolis, and fortuitously the council and the planners are putting the high density housing in the town itself, or maybe towards the west.
Yeah.
And I think so it's worked out really well. So people have only got to drive a couple of kilometres, and they've got the ambience and the serenity and the lovely green fields of farmlands. It's lovely.
Outstanding. Well, the reason we've got you on today is you and Rhonda, and I know your daughter Melissa as well, involved with an organisation called BlazeAid, BlazeAid. Tell us about BlazeAid.
Well, the way it all started was what wasn't supposed to happen. Most of us will remember the Black Saturday fire, which started on 11:38 a.m. On the 7th of February 2009.
Yep.
And for several days, if not weeks, the Premier of Victoria at the time, I think it was John Brumby, I can't remember now, he was warning all of us that we're in for a catastrophic period of fires because of the high winds and super dry landscapes and the hot temperatures. And anyway, that Saturday I was on with my local CFA. My role was to be the scout. So I was up in the garden, just doing some gardening, looking at the horizon, looking for fires. Anyway, I saw a puff of smoke, and I can remember it clearly. It started in the east near the Hume Freeway between Wandong and Broadford, right on the edge of our farm, not on our farm. It was actually a swirl, a broken power line that came down with the high winds, because the winds were about 100 kilometres an hour. Anyway, I thought, oh, this is it. So I went out there and went to the top of the hill as I'd been instructed, and gave and watched the fire and how it was moving. There were a couple of locals that were trying to put it out, but it was sort of, and there was a helicopter that came over, and anyway, it was going into the pines and moving towards Wandong, and I was listening to the radio, the ABC radio at the time, and they weren't mentioning the fire. So I phoned up, it was Libby Price, who was the announcer at the at the time, which was around about 12 o'clock, and I said, Libby, no one's talking about this. I believe it's going to be a horrific fire coming out of Kilmore East, and it's heading towards Melbourne. And I said, I think everyone in Wandong should evacuate. So anyway, she said, does anyone know about this fire? So then someone on the Hume Freeway said, yes, we can't get through on the Hume Freeway. It's an absolute inferno. Well, that day and the next day, 100 lives.
Yeah, and across, is that the one that also involved King Lake?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, 2,000 homes burnt down, and it changed a lot of other people's lives, and it changed our lives as well.
Yeah. So, and I think when we see it, we're in the city of Geelong, so we see it on the TV, and it's almost like it's an unreal thing. But I guess where you are and being part of the CFA, it must have been horrific.
Yeah, well, I wasn't part of the CFA. It's just because I'm a farmer.
Yeah, okay.
Farmers very time poor, and we've got good friends in the CFA, and we're very supportive. But that was just my role. But anyway, no, you are right. On TV, you think, oh, look, it's pretty bad, but you sort of on that day, it was just sort of running around trying to save people's homes, and there was no law or order. There was a chronic lack of CFA volunteer fire trucks, because I can't do everything everywhere when that inferno was travelling at 11 kilometres a minute across to King Lake. So there was a virtual impossibility. But it was. I remember on that day, the police blocked me off from going and helping a neighbour, and anyway, I thought, oh well, they're only just doing their job. So I went through, cut through fences on my farm and other farms, and made my way over. And there's some sites you remember, and one was it was just so hot. And look, the temperature might have been in the high 40s, early 50s, and I pulled up near this dam, and coming out of the dam was a kangaroo. It actually jumped into the dam to escape the heat.
Wow.
So I'd never seen that before. I thought that was quite an experience, and then I sort of descended into the valley, and we saved Bob and Bob's home and his wife's home, and I remember at 5 o'clock, because the wind had changed, the fire was sort of out on our side, and we're almost out, and Bob and I drove around. We looked at how much black there was, and we thought, well, this is good, the fire is contained, but we hadn't listened to the radio, because at that time it was wiping out, or had wiped out King Lake and was on its way to Narberthon. So it in fact, that night was pretty bad as well. But I remember the last fire trucks came through about 11 o'clock, put the last of our fires out, and then I sort of had nightmares during the night when I tried to sleep, and got up at 5 o'clock and got on the front end loader and cleared the roads of fallen trees so traffic could get through. And then we found out that there were people who died, and we thought, there was about 15 to 20 who died, and we thought, oh, that is horrific. And as we started refencing our property, the numbers kept on going. I remember the first day we had a couple of volunteers, and I said one volunteer volunteered to get a chainsaw sharpened, and she said, two people died in front of me. And I said, well, what happened? And it was a tree fell on top of them and squashed them in the car. Yeah. So, it was one of those times where there was just death and misery just surrounded us. And it was, sort of Rhonda and I had survivor's guilt, and that the farm just started 300 metres from our farm, and, we escaped, death and destruction. It was only a part of our farm that was burnt. We got off relatively scot-free, but there were others who were just, their lives were just terribly changed.
I think the one that many people would remember, and it's a sad reflection, I guess, on the way we operate, but certainly two of the people who were killed in that were Brian Naylor and his wife, and because they were people we knew of, we didn't know them, but we felt like we knew them. Suddenly, it also they were real people, as distinct from 147, 174. There's another 20. It suddenly brought it to life, I reckon.
Oh well, Neil, I agree with you. My time of reckoning was with a lady called Sandra at Wandong, Sandra Lacus. And she was one of my clients, and I used to shear her sheep. And anyway, when I first started BlazeAid, just to help out some neighbours with some volunteers, Sandra invited me down and told me the story about Steve, who went back into the house to get a few things, and he never came out. It's very personal when you have a friend who loses a loved one, and it brings the seriousness of the reality. And I think the fires did touch a lot of people. I know you mentioned Brian Naylor, and I can still picture where the house was down there at King Lake that he and his wife lived in. But the Royal Commission report is certainly sobering reading, because you hear the life stories of all these people who lost their lives and that were impacted.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing too, and we will get to BlazeAid in a minute, but I think it's a really important part of the story. But I think, you know, after, you said it was the 9th of February, you know, by the end of February, most of us who are not directly there have gone, yeah, remember that thing that happened a few weeks ago? But it just doesn't suddenly click your fingers and the houses are back and the trees have grown and all that sort of stuff. The legacy of such an event must have dragged on for years.
Oh, yes. It took, because of the overlays and the protections, for people to rebuild their houses, it took, it seemed a lifetime, but maybe up to 5 years and even longer. There were people living in horse floats and caravans, and there were and other people's homes. It was incredibly unsettling for a lot of people, and it had a massive impact in the region. Just, you know, there were people just with the sight of fire, and even I was similar as well. That's what happens with all natural disasters, with floods and that sort of thing. That any little trigger will sort of send you, with a bit of anxiety or a lot of anxiety. So, yeah, the impact is quite massive.
Yeah, and there's that emotional impact that we don't see. Sure, we see houses being rebuilt and we see shopping centres being rebuilt, but the internal stuff is the bit that is obviously pretty scary.
Yeah. People seem good on the outside, but they certainly feel it on the inside. Yeah, that's right. So,
and then there'd be anniversaries, and I guess the other thing too, if you know we've had a fairly windy couple of days, and albeit in October, you know, if that next time you have a windy day, I guess that starts to play in your mind as well.
Well, you're right, Neil, because I'm a farmer, and you live and breathe and survive by the seasons, and because I've lived a long time, you sort of say, okay, this is a mirror image of 1988 and 2002 and 2019, and at least 2 out of 3 of those were predecessors of horrific fire events. So, yes, we are bracing ourselves for a big fire season this year.
Well, now might be a good time for us to change tack and talk about BlazeAid. It's officially a charitable organisation, isn't it?
Yeah, we call ourselves a not-for-profit organisation, and we're very much a hands up rather than a hands out or handout. So BlazeAid started because we had about 1,500 sheep that wanted to walk out to the Hume Freeway and get mown over by big B-doubles and trucks. So Rhonda and I and our son Michael, we had to start re-fencing straight away. So I can remember on it was the February the 11th, and I put a crowbar into the ground to dig a hole, and the ground was so bloody hard.
Yeah.
But, oh, my God, 3 kilometres of fencing. This is bigger than Ben-Hur. So I just decided to place a $10 ad in our local rag, our newspaper, Kilmore North Central Review, and asked if there are any volunteers who'd like to help us with the fencing. We'd be really grateful. So with family and volunteers, fortuitously, I've sort of got a teaching background and of course farming expertise. We had about 25 volunteers, and I assembled them into about 5 teams. And Rhonda cooked breakfast, morning tea, lunch, and afternoon tea for everyone. And what should have taken me about 4 months took us just 7 days.
Wow!
So, which was it was probably about $10,000-$15,000 worth of work, because we're going through bush and ashes, and it was pretty tough. Anyway, so on the 7th day, sounds a bit divine, doesn't it? On the 7th day, Rhonda and I, we thanked, and we had a few beers and drinks and celebration. We ended it, and Rhonda and I decided to go for a drive and marvel over the fence and talk about the power of one, power of a woman. I was looking to the left of this lovely fence, and Rhonda was looking to the right at all the burnt fences and all the burnt properties of our neighbours. And I was marvelling about how good it was, and Rhonda said, well, what about your neighbours?
Yeah.
I said, well,
I'm all right, Jack.
Can't help them.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you organise people. You know how to organise people. You know what to do. She said, why don't you do the same for them as what you did for yourself? And I said, are you joking? I said, I've just finished fencing. I've got my own life to lead. I've got a business to run. I've got the farm to run. I haven't got time for that. And she said, well, look, we should give it a go for a fortnight. We organise volunteers and we help our neighbours. So I said, all right, if you want to do that, you want me to do that, you're going to do the cooking like you did in the last 7 days? You're going to cook them morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea? She said, yes, I will.
Nice.
And she said, I'll bring it all out onto the fence lines and I will cook for them. And I said, all right. We did a high five in there and said, right, it's agreement, 14 days. Well, what is it, 15 years later, I think we've done 15,000 properties, 46,000 volunteers, enough fencing to go to London and back. It's been, I think it's approaching $500 million worth of aid to the local communities, rural communities all around Australia, including Tasmania. I think we've responded to about 150 natural disasters, and it's probably the biggest. It would be the biggest organisation of its type in the world. So it's it's amazing how you've only just heard of BlazeAid, Neil, but it's grown incredibly, it's changed people's lives. And, I think I don't know how to quite put this, and it sounds a little bit, patriotic. I'm trying to think of the words, but when you're sort of down and out because you've lost, it took you 40 years to build your fences or your bridges or whatever, and the fire wipes it out in 40 seconds, and you don't feel like getting out of bed because you're so depressed, and an army of volunteers turn up who are skilled and trained, and there are others who are not skilled and trained, they're rookies, but they just want to help, and they're mustered with $17,000 worth of tools and a combat-ready trailer, and they say, where can we start to clean up and rebuild? You say that's not going to happen. Who are you? I don't even know where you could start, because this is bigger than Ben-Hur. But what we do know is that building does start. Cleaning up and rebuilding does start, and families are reunited together, and husbands put away the gun, and they start coming out and helping and cracking jokes, and their lives are changed, and they become, their fences become, I don't know, I think they become symbols of hope and belief in fellow man, and it's just an incredibly powerful story of, mates helping mates, and the power of volunteerism in Australia.
Yeah, and when I said I hadn't heard of BlazeAid, I'd heard of them, but I just didn't appreciate how big BlazeAid is. One of the guests I had on this show a couple of weeks ago is Linda Widdop, who runs Aussie Hay Runners, who are, if you like, not a parallel, but you know what I mean. They're also there when times are tough, and they're bringing in practical help. And I think the practical help component of it, I think. People who live in the cities, they see on the TV, there's been a fire, we'll throw $50 in a pot, But to actually be there, to actually do stuff, I would have thought is so much more valuable to the people. As you say, it brings hope. It means so that instead of the farmer having to go, well, I've got however many kilometres of fences to rebuild, what he's got is a whole lot of fences that we will rebuild.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, we appreciate everything, whether it be a $50 donation or a day's work, or some volunteers have been with us for years, and it's almost a part of their lives. Volunteering for BlazeAid, whether it be the Grampians fires in Victoria or the southwest floods in Queensland at Chunder and Longreach and so on, and it's BlazeAid and helping others after natural disasters, because natural disasters bring you down to your knees. It's just a wipeout. And for these angels to come along, whether you're a hay runner or a fencer or, to clean up, it's just life-changing. I'm a volunteer like everyone else, and I'm a farmer, and I still struggle on the farm to find time. And anyway, the joke was that Kevin's built fences for everyone else, but his fences are shit. And he's got sheep out in the roads. And we had this program going a few months ago called Give a Farmer a Break. And Debbie in the office said to me, Kevin, I know you won't ask, but she said, I'm sending over a team to build that, rebuild that fence for you on Nanny's Creek Road where all the sheep are getting out, which is driving me insane. Anyway, and it was a good experience for me. I mean, I was shoulder to shoulder with the volunteers, and we had some bulldozing to do because it was pretty rough country. It's actually part of the original fence, but it had to be relined with like netting to stop the new breed, the white Sussex, getting out onto the road and causing accidents. And it was a good experience for me because I was just so appreciative of this help. We got it done in 4 days in total, and I've been trying to get it done for about 10 years. It's just so life-changing. And the friendships that are set up, and the passion we have towards each other, it's just palpitating. And you never forget these people that helped you. But I've often said to Rhonda that while I started BlazeAid and founded it, and Melissa now our daughter is running it, which is just wonderful. That if something happened to Rhonda, I think I would try and get someone to run the farm and volunteer with BlazeAid, because you find people who have very similar beliefs and values as yourself, goodness and towards others, and fortuitously in BlazeAid, I think there's been hundreds of relationships that have been formed, a few babies as well.
Oh, hello.
happily partnered up or married, and the funny thing about it is that many of them don't come back to BlazeAid. They've got their own lives and own families, but it's a very joyful experience, and I think it's one of those things that you think. I remember my sister said to me one day, I don't want to have on my tombstone that I was good at washing up dishes, or I raised 3 children, or I worked for 40 years. I'd like to think I made a difference. And I think that BlazeAid is one of those things that have made a massive, massive difference to people, both as much to the volunteers as what it has to the people who have been helped after the floods and fires and drought and so on. So, it really is a joy. Back in the early days, I was the benevolent dictator, and it grew and grew, and I sort of formed a committee, a board, and as you evolve, you sort of get more quality, passionate people on the board, and we've got a very, very strong board these days, made up of coordinators who've run camps and farmers have been impacted by the fires, and some volunteers as well, and some corporate people, and we sort of preside over a very big cachet of equipment. We've got several $1 million worth of equipment now, housed in warehouses in every state, if it's not already out there in the paddocks and fields all around the country. We've got great communication systems with each other, and with camps, and we've got fabulous sponsorship from major names like Qantas and R.M. Williams and Brown Brothers.
Extraordinary.
Just hundreds and hundreds of quality companies that like the beliefs and values that we have. But the irony is that although we've put in the average stay of a volunteer, Neil, do you know how long a volunteer, they'll say they'll help for 2 or 3 days, but do you know what the average stay of a volunteer is?
Oh, I'm assuming it's years.
Well, what they put in is around about 10.5 working days each.
Wow.
So the ages vary from 12 years of age up to 91. Sorry, that's the range, but the average is about 63. Yep. And, it's a massive commitment that people put in, and that extrapolates to about 460,000 working days since we started.
Wow.
So, but against the massive size of BlazeAid, and we can, at one point in 2019, we had 14 base camps running from Kangaroo Island, Pandana, I'm trying to think of the name of it, in central Kangaroo Island. I don't know if you've been there, Nick.
No, I haven't. No.
Right up to the Queensland border, Geelong or something like that.
Wow.
But 40 base camps and up to 2,000 volunteers a day, many of them backpackers. And then we went through COVID where backpackers couldn't get back to their home country, and they were very happy staying with BlazeAid where they were safe, and working at places like, where is it? Not Wangara, or not Bunyip, in the Gippsland fires.
Yep.
It escapes me right now. But yeah, it's, but out of all that, we've only got 2 paid people in our organisation because we've got all the systems set up, and we've got a lot of great volunteers and great coordinators who are ready to run camps and to work and volunteer. The thing about BlazeAid is that we're very much family. We do look after people. So, Neil Butler wanted to volunteer with BlazeAid over at New Hall's Campsite at Wooloora, or Neil, or even, Kendall or Oxley Island right now. We'd say, well, when are you coming? And yeah, it'll be tomorrow night. Have dinner with us. We'll help you set up your van. We'll give you power and water if need be. And, we'll make you welcome. We'll feed you for breakfast. We'll put you in a team, depending on your abilities. And, all the ingredients are set up there to make up a lunch for the farmer as well. So we can sit underneath a gum tree and talk, because I love doing that at lunchtime and morning tea. And you'll be out working there for a day, happily come back bloody tired at 4 o'clock, have a bit of a happy hour, get showered, have dinner.
Rinse and repeat.
Reports about what's done on the fencing line, a few jokes, and then most of us are in bed about 8 o'clock and buggered and get up at, up past 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and the day starts over again. So, BlazeAid is a very well-oiled machine these days, and we're always growing. At the moment, we're putting up this proposal called All Fired Up, and that's, I don't know if you're aware of this, but many of the fires are actually put out by private firefighting units.
Okay, yep.
And many farmers have got their own private firefighting unit, just a 4-wheel drive with a tank on the back. And anyway, I'm encouraging farmers to get connected with their local country fire authority, captain, lieutenant, and if they want a new a motor or a pump for their firefighting outfit, or it might be overalls, fireproof overalls, or breathing equipment, or first aid, or whatever, nozzles for, BlazeAid will fund them 100%.
Wow. Well, Kevin...
And which is a pretty good offer.
Absolutely it is. Well, Kevin, we've got to get going. We could sit here and chat all day, and I think we would learn more and more and more, but we've got someone else we've got to talk to. But as you would be aware, I've got a thing called 10 Amazing that I'm promoting at the moment, 10amazing.au, and you were one of the 10 Amazing regional not-for-profit organisations. So well done you. What an extraordinary story. And if we can help you in any way, shape or form, you just let us know. People can donate by going to blazeaid.com.au, I assume?
Yeah, that's right, just blazeaid.com. There's always updates too on Australia All Over with Ian McNamara on the ABC on a Sunday morning, and Facebook as well. People might like to follow BlazeAid on Facebook. And of course, the website is extremely good as well.
Yep.
And we put out a quarterly newsletter which updates, highlights our volunteers and where we're at and what we're doing, which is very colourful. Melissa and Debbie and Donna write that one. So it's a great experience. If anyone there is at loose ends, lacking perhaps a purpose in life,
get on to BlazeAid.
Oh, come and join BlazeAid.
Yeah.
It'll change your life. And it's actually, it's the most common reflection I get from people. BlazeAid's changed my life. And you think, they're just sort of being cliche, but no, it's true.
Kevin Butler, what a story, and thank you for sharing it. We will certainly keep in touch. I'll see you at the family reunion. No, I won't. Different Butlers.
No, we'd love to see you at a BlazeAid camp anywhere. But
We'll see how we go. Steve from Bamborough says he'll send his wife.
we'd like Steve to come too.
Thanks, Kevin. All the very best.
Neil.